We asked AI, what happens if China becomes the #1 superpower? What happens if China surpasses the US as the world's #1 superpower? Will the global economy shift? Will new alliances form? Will America decline? We asked AI to analyze historical patterns, economic trends, and geopolitical data to predict what could happen next. The results might surprise you. Let's break it down. How AI predicts global power shifts. AI examines historical power transitions like the British Empire's decline and the rise of the US after World War II. AI looks at economic, military, and technological indicators to measure dominance. AI forecasts potential global reactions, how other nations would respond to China taking the top spot. Now, let's explore the scenarios AI predicts if China overtakes the US as the dominant global superpower. How close is China to becoming the #1 superpower? We asked AI, how does China compare to the US today? 1. Economic strength. China's GDP is on track to surpass the US within the next decade based on current trends. AI notes that China already leads in manufacturing, exports, and global trade. However, debt levels, internal market struggles, and an aging population could slow its growth. 2. Military expansion. China is rapidly modernizing its military and expanding its naval capabilities in the South China Sea. AI predicts that by 2040, China could rival US military strength if trends continue. 3. Technology and innovation. AI highlights that China is leading in AI development, quantum computing, and 5G infrastructure. The US still dominates in semiconductors and high-end AI research, but China is catching up fast. If China continues this trajectory, it could become the world's dominant superpower within the next 20 to 30 years. But what would that look like? What happens if China becomes the #1 superpower? AI's predictions. We asked AI, what would the world look like if China overtakes the US as the dominant power? Scenario 1. The Chinese-led global economy, most likely outcome. The Chinese yuan could replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. More countries would align with China's trade policies, leading to new global economic systems. AI predicts a shift in global financial institutions. China would gain more influence in the World Bank, IMF, and trade agreements. Scenario 2. The end of US global influence. Chart with downward trend, moderate risk scenario. If China becomes the leading superpower, US foreign policy could weaken. Alliances like NATO and the G7 may lose power, and a new Chinese-led global order could emerge. AI predicts that the US could experience a decline similar to Britain after World War II if economic and military shifts favor China. Scenario 3. Global tensions and possible Cold War 2.0, worst-case scenario. If China takes the top spot aggressively, tensions with the US and Western nations could escalate. AI compares this to the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union, where two superpowers controlled separate economic and military spheres. A global tech war could emerge where countries must choose between Chinese or Western technology and trade systems. While AI doesn't predict outright war, it does see a future where the US and China compete aggressively for global influence. How would this impact everyday life? If China becomes the dominant power, how would it affect you? AI predicts your money. More global transactions would be done in Chinese yuan instead of the US dollar. Tech supply chains could change, impacting prices of electronics, cars, and even AI-driven jobs. Media and culture. AI predicts that Chinese media, apps, and companies would dominate globally. TikTok's rise is just the beginning. Censorship and internet regulations could become more widespread worldwide. Trade and products. AI suggests that China's influence over supply chains could grow, making Western alternatives more expensive. More Chinese brands would dominate global markets, similar to how American brands do today. These shifts wouldn't happen overnight, but they could reshape global economies, politics, and even culture over time. Can the US prevent this shift? AI suggests America still has time to maintain its position as the world's superpower. The US must invest heavily in AI, innovation, and emerging industries. Strengthening trade alliances with Europe, India, and Latin America could help balance China's rise. The question isn't whether China will grow, it's whether the US will adapt fast enough to stay ahead. What do you think? Will China become the #1 superpower, or will the US maintain its dominance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more AI-driven insights.